Hello friends, welcome to my channel Vijeta Q&A Biology. Today we are going to see one question from MPSC lecturer in Zoology Screening Test 2011. The question is, diabetes insipidus is caused due to the deficiency of oxytocin, vasopressin, insulin or glucagon. So in this case, I'm going to explain you the answer of this question and why the particular answer is the answer of this question. Then all the details of other hormones. So you will get the idea of other hormones also along with the answer of this question. So let's start. So question is, diabetes insipidus is caused due to the deficiency of oxytocin, vasopressin, insulin or glucagon. So the first hormone is oxytocin. So oxytocin is secreted by the pituitary gland. I have given you the details of pituitary gland. So pituitary gland has two parts, anterior pituitary, which is called as adenohypophysis, and posterior pituitary, which is called as neurohypophysis. So this oxytocin hormone is secreted by the neurohypophysis, that is the posterior pituitary. So here this is the pituitary gland, and this is the region which is shown here is the posterior pituitary part. Here there is no details of anterior pituitary. Here only the posterior pituitary part or posterior pituitary details are diagrammed here. So these are the neurosecretory cell bodies, neuronal cell bodies in the hypothalamus, which are responsible for secretion of two hormones, vasopressin and oxytocin. Okay, so in this case, as you all know that posterior pituitary does not secrete any kind of hormones. It only responsible for storage and release of hormones which are produced by the hypothalamus. So this is the hypothalamus region, and this hypothalamus region contains the paraventricular nucleus region. So this is the paraventricular nucleus region, and this paraventricular nuclear region contains the neurons, which are also called as neuronal cell bodies. So these neuronal cell bodies that are present in the paraventricular nucleus in the hypothalamus are responsible for secretion of the oxytocin. Okay, so here you are observing these are the paraventricular nucleus. This is the paraventricular nucleus present within the hypothalamus, and it responsible for secretion of the oxytocin. It secretes the oxytocin and it enters into the posterior pituitary. This is the posterior pituitary part, and from posterior pituitary it goes to the systematic venous blood. So this is the oxytocin which is secreted by the posterior pituitary but synthesized by the paraventricular, synthesized by the neurons or neuronal cell bodies that are present in the paraventricular nucleus of hypothalamus in the brain. Okay, so oxytocin is synthesized by the paraventricular nuclei of is synthesized by the neuronal cell bodies which are present in the paraventricular nucleus of hypothalamus, and it is secreted by the posterior pituitary. So which are the different kinds of functions of the oxytocin? So this oxytocin is a hormone, is mainly released during the delivery in the body of the pregnant woman. So this is responsible for stretching of the cervix. So during the delivery, stretching of cervix of uterus stimulates the release of oxytocin. So when the baby's head comes towards the cervix region, the cervix is stretched out. And due to this stretching of the cervix, there is release of more and more oxytocin. Okay, so which further enhances the contractions of smooth muscles in the wall of uterus. So oxytocin is mainly responsible for, you can say that, during the delivery of in the pregnant woman, during the delivery of the baby, it is responsible for the contraction of smooth muscles in the wall of the uterus, so that the baby can come out from the body of the mother or from the womb of the mother. Okay, and also its main function is this, that is the contraction of smooth muscles in the wall of the uterus. And after delivery, it stimulates the milk ejection from the mammary glands from the mother. And this is also in responsible this is in response to the mechanical stimulus provided by the suckling infant. So when infant sucks the uh, nipples of the mammary glands, more and more oxytocin is secreted, and which further stimulates more and more milk ejection from the mammary glands. So major function of the oxytocin in the females is in the pregnant woman during the delivery and after the delivery for the milk ejection from the mammary glands. Then the next hormone is vasopressin. This vasopressin is also called as the ADH, that is antidiuretic hormone. So antidiuretic hormone, its name is suggesting its function. But first we will see how it is synthesized and from where it is synthesized. Vasopressin is a hormone. It is synthesized by the neuronal cell bodies in the supraoptic nucleus of the hypothalamus. So again, the same diagram is shown here. This is the hypothalamus. This is the pituitary gland, and the posterior pituitary, that is the neurohypophysis, is there. And it contains a nucleus region which is called as the supraoptic nucleus. So this is the supraoptic nucleus, and this supraoptic nucleus contains the neurons or neuronal cell bodies. And these neuronal cell bodies are responsible for synthesis of the hormone called vasopressin or antidiuretic hormone. And this hormone is synthesized in these neurons and then goes down to the posterior pituitary, and from posterior pituitary it is released out in the blood, that is the vasopressin. Okay, so we have seen that oxytocin is synthesized by the paraventricular nucleus, whereas the neurons which are present in the paraventricular nucleus, and the vasopressin is synthesized by the neurons or neuronal cell bodies that are present in the supraoptic nuclei of the hypothalamus. Now, which are the functions of vasopressin? Now, its name is vasopressin. So, vaso is nothing but the blood, and pressus is to press. So, according to name, the function of the hormone is it causes constriction of arterioles. Okay, its another name is antidiuretic hormone. Its main function is decrease in the urine production, and also it causes kidneys to return to more water to the blood. So from kidneys, it returns more and more water to the blood, thus decreasing the urine volume. So its main function is decreasing the urine volume as well as decreasing the urine production. It also decreases the water that lost from the sweating and causes constriction of arterioles, which in turn increases the blood pressure. So it is also responsible for increasing the blood pressure by giving back water which is coming to the kidney to the blood. So so according to the name vasopressin, we have seen our question about the diabetes insipidus. So the answer of the question is mainly the vasopressin. So what is the diabetes insipidus? Diabetes insipidus mainly caused due to the dysfunction of the posterior pituitary. Also, it causes defects in antidiuretic hormone receptors. It is inability to secrete the ADH or vasopressin. Then if there is a brain tumor, then it may also damage the posterior pituitary and also the damage to the supraoptic nuclei, which are responsible for synthesis of ADH or vasopressin. Also, head trauma can cause dysfunction of posterior pituitary or supraoptic nuclei. So if brain surgery is there, that damages the posterior pituitary or hypothalamus and the damaged kidneys. So because of all these, the ADH function or vasopressin function can be impaired. And because of when the vasopressin function is impaired, it mainly causes a disease which is called as the diabetes insipidus, because of which what happens, um, urine production is not decreased, or urine volume is not decreased, and more water from the body is released out. So the answer of this question is vasopressin, and due to impairment of the vasopressin, the disease that is caused is the diabetes insipidus. So the symptoms of diabetes insipidus are excretion of large volumes of urine, dehydration, and thirst. Now, what treatment can be given to the patients of diabetes insipidus? Because it's mainly the symptoms are excretion of large volumes of urine, because the water because of impairment of the vasopressin secretion or the antidiuretic hormone secretion, there is no return back of the water to the blood. So large quantity of urine or large excretion of large volumes of urine takes place, because of which dehydration takes place, and because of which thirst is its symptom. So treatment can be given as a hormonal replacement or subcutaneous injection of ADH or vasopressin. Also, you can give nasal spray of ADH or vasopressin and use of antidiuretic drugs. So this is the treatment for the diabetes insipidus. So diabetes insipidus is caused due to the deficiency of vasopressin. So the diabetes insipidus is the disease because of which large volumes of urine is excreted, and which takes place because of the decreased production of vasopressin. And this the reasons why the vasopressin secretion is decreased are already listed above. The next hormone which is there is the insulin. So this hormone, insulin, is mainly secreted by the pancreas. So this is the pancreas. Pancreas is present in the digestive system, which is mainly responsible for secretion of various kinds of digestive hormones. Then insulin is mainly secreted by the beta cells of pancreatic islets. So when you do the section of this pancreas, it contains the cells which are called as islets of Langerhans. And these different groups of islets of Langerhans are there. And different groups of islets of Langerhans secrete the different hormones. So here, there are the cells. One of the cells from the islets of Langerhans are called as the beta cells. This is the beta cell, and these beta cells are responsible for the synthesis and the secretion of a hormone called insulin. Now, what are the functions of insulin? The main function of insulin that you may know, that is, it lowers the glucose level. It lowers the blood glucose level. But how it lowers the blood glucose level? It does it by accelerating the transport of glucose into the cell. So when we eat the food is breakdown. The starch, we most of the time we eat the food in the form of starch, and that is degraded and it is converted into the glucose. So after the meals or after the um, after by taking a food, the glucose level of the blood is increased, and as the glucose level of the blood is increased, all the cells of the body um, take up that glucose, and that glucose take up is mainly done because of the insulin. It also does the another function that is called as glycogenesis, that is conversion of a glucose to the glycogen. So glycogen is a stored form of glucose which is stored into the liver. So during fasting, or when we don't get the food at a proper time, at that time the blood glucose level is maintained by this glycogen. How glycogen breaks down itself into the glucose, and that glucose enters into the blood and maintains the blood glucose level. So this insulin also responsible for doing the glycogenesis, that is conversion of glucose to glycogen. Then it decreases the glycogenolysis and gluconeogenesis. Then it increases the lipogenesis, that is lipid formation. So most when there is more and more insulin after conversion of more glucose into the glycogen, if some more amount of glucose is present in the body, then that glucose gets converted into the lipids, that is the lipogenesis. Then it also stimulates the protein synthesis. The next hormone is the glucagon. Again, this glucagon is secreted by the pancreas. So as I have told you that pancreas contains a group of cells which are called as islets of Langerhans, which secrete the different in which the different types of cells secrete the different types of hormones. So in this case, there are alpha cells. These are the alpha cells, and these alpha cells are responsible for alpha cells of islets of Langerhans are responsible for the secretion of the glucagon, whereas the beta cells are responsible for secretion of the insulin. Okay, so what are the functions of this glucagon? Glucagon is responsible for glycogenolysis. That is, glucagon does the functions opposite of the insulin. Insulin is responsible for glycogenesis, that is, it produces glycogen, whereas glucagon is responsible for glycogenolysis, that is, it is responsible for degradation of the glycogen to convert it into glucose. So this glycogenolysis is nothing but it raises the blood glucose level by accelerating the breakdown of glycogen into glucose in liver. So when there is a need, there is a need of maintenance of blood glucose level in the body. At that time, this glycogenesis takes place. That is, the glycogen which is stored in the liver gets degraded degraded due to the glucagon and gets converted into the glucose molecules, and blood glucose level is maintained. The next is the gluconeogenesis. It is responsible for gluconeogenesis, that is, it converts other nutrients into glucose. That is, if there are more amount of lipids are there, more amount of proteins are there, then that are gets converted into the glucose. Then it is responsible for release of glucose in the blood. So remember this, the glucagon is secreted by the alpha cells of the islets of Langerhans of pancreas, whereas insulin is secreted by the beta cells of islets of Langerhans of pancreas. And the functions of insulin and glucagon are opposite functions. Insulin is responsible for entering the more and more amount of glucose into the cells. That is, it lowers the blood glucose level, whereas glucagon is responsible for increasing the blood glucose level. So functions of the glucagon and insulin are opposite for the blood maintenance of blood glucose levels. So thank you everyone. If you like my channel, then please like, share and subscribe. Thank you so much.